What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here, joined by Brent Hensel, the curator for the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame, and your potential professor with a new expansion of the UWGB certificate program. Brent, I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I got to admit, I've been a big fan of your work with the Packers Hall of Fame, but also the contribution you gave to the legacy documentary that the Packers produced a couple years ago around the 100-year anniversary of the franchise. I have to say, it's a real honor to speak to someone who takes such great care in the stewardship of the Green Bay Packers.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun. We've done a lot of fun historical projects with the Packers organization, obviously with the 100th anniversary, from the documentary to even Cliff's book. I
Absolutely.
got to play a role in that also, so it's always fun. The Packers history is like no other, as you know. We like to term it as the greatest story in sports, and it's you couldn't write fiction better than some of the great Packer stories.
Absolutely. And just for anyone who maybe isn't aware about this program with the University of Wisconsin Green Bay, this is what exactly? Because I know have been a couple headlines over the kind of last year or so about the Packers partnering with UWGB in regards to a certificate program. Can you tell people exactly what this is, what it entails, and what it covers?
Sure. So this is part of UW Green Bay's continuing education program. So if you're a lifelong learner, they have different classes or programs that they develop, and we connected UW Green Bay and myself, and ended up collaborating on a Packers history course. And this actually is the second version of it. So the
Nice.
first version we did last year. We did two different times of this class, but it was really on the first 50 years of Packers history. I dug into a little bit the origins of American football, and then football coming to the Green Bay area, and then we dig in, of course, into like Curly Lambeau, and it goes all the way up to Vince Lombardi, and it's over 8 weeks. It's a 8-week course. You meet once a week, and it was so successful. We had students from all over, not just Wisconsin, but all over the country, and even we had a few from internationally,
Nice.
including like Ireland and England. And so, since it was so successful, a lot of the people that took the course asked, "Are you going to do the next 50 or 60 years?" And so that's kind of where this has originated from.
Yeah, and I noticed you mentioned up until Vince Lombardi, and then I believe this new program begins with the hiring of Ron Wolf or thereabouts. You're not going to cover the gory years. You're not going to be doing, Forrest Gregg and Bart Starr as a coach. You're just going to skip
No,
over
we,
that,
we we are going to dig into the 70s and 80s. I mean,
right?
obviously, there's more. How shall I say it? Low lights, but there's definitely interesting, intriguing things that happen.
No doubt.
So we will dig into the 70s and 80s. We'll have some guest speakers. I'm still working on, so I don't want to
Nice.
promise anything, but
Right.
um, trying to work on them. Maybe even if I'm lucky enough, get an alumni player or two
Oh, that'd be
that I
great.
know. Maybe talk about different eras, but the fun stuff. If I'm sure you can relate, like is when Ron Wolf, they're reviving the franchise. Ron Wolf comes, Bob Harland, Mike Holmgren, all that good stuff. Brett Favre,
Right.
Reggie White. So we'll definitely dig into that, and then even go into some recent history.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask. How do you break it up? Because, like you mentioned, in the initial kind of version of this course, I know you had, like you said, all the way back to the formation of American like football, essentially, and Curly coming out of that. How is this broken up? Do you go by decade? Do you go? Is there like different subjects in each class? How are you laying this out?
I think it's really is mostly by decade, but there will be specific topics where you'll break out into, like, for example, the renovation of Lambeau Field. I think that's a key moment in team history, like the rededication back in 2003. So there's other, and I don't want to dig. I don't want to go too much into like recent history or current history because it's happening now.
Right.
But I mean, we'll certainly probably at the end touch a little upon um, Matt LaFleur and Goody and all that,
Right.
and Jordan Love.
Sure. I mean, you have to. It's absolutely all the rage at the moment, and I know coming out of the era that was just not very successful to becoming this perennial success with the Packers, and how like so much of it is kind of, I guess you would say, chronicled by the Packers Hall of Fame. It's fascinating. When I went back a couple years ago, I grew up in the era where it was down the street and it was a very different kind of entity. The work you've done as far as not only the way it's situated inside Lambeau, but just the journey you go on. How hard was that to kind of put together? Because it's very obviously well thought out and there's a flow to it. Is that something you drew on from your work when I know you were with the Patriots and you, I believe, began with the Pro Football Hall of Fame? It's really, really kind of an effortless journey through the history of the Packers. And if I just love to know a little bit more about that.
So I definitely think we dig. I use that background wisely. I want to. We have like a historical committee. Cliff Crystal is a big part of that. So
Right.
Cliff wrote a lot of the original text when we renovated, when the Hall of Fame moved into the atrium back in 2015. So, you know, Cliff's had plenty of time to like kind of write that story from the book to even the Hall of Fame, and we've tried to update the history because frankly I can there you know how many there's thousands of Packers history books out there,
Oh yeah.
and I can probably dig in. Cliff's taught me well. I could dig into any Packers history book and probably find some mistakes or errors that go back because like history works as it's always retold, and then if the error is happening, it's just going to be repeated. So I bet I could flip into most Packers history books and find a historical photo that's just maybe tagged wrong or something like that. I always think of there's a city stadium photo. It's actually um, it's not the opening game, but
Oh no.
it's the first league game and what they played at City Stadium in 1925, and it's often tagged wrong in books as like 1930 City Stadium photo, and you can clearly. So that's just an example.
Right.
So we've really focused on trying to get like the history right and telling our story accurately.
What's going on with the Hall of Fame now that, we're a couple weeks away from training camp starting up? I know the shareholders meeting is on the 22nd. You're going to have a ton of people in town. People seeking out the Hall of Fame who maybe want to check it out. What can they expect? Where should they go? What should they be looking for?
So that's a great segue. We do a temporary exhibit annually on every year. So usually right before training camp. So our visitors that are coming to the Packers Hall of Fame are going to see something new. And what better temporary exhibit than to do on the NFL draft? So it really kind of
Nice.
digs into the history of the NFL draft. We have going back all the way to the 30s. We have a timeline. We also tell the story of this isn't the first time the Packers have hosted, or actually, I shouldn't say it's not the first time the Packers or Wisconsin has hosted the NFL draft. They hosted the NFL draft back in 1939. That was the 1940 NFL draft. So the way it worked then was the team that was uh, in the championship game, they would host the draft the day before or after that championship game. So
Huh.
it was actually held in Milwaukee. So we kind of tell that interesting story, and then how the drafts changed from like nobody could attend, and there were no draft nicks or draft guides. Like
Right.
actually, even the owners at that time, they didn't have scouting departments, and so they relied on actually Pro Football magazines to get some of the prospects and create the list. So a lot has changed since
Oh,
then.
just a little bit. I mean, it's exciting to think about the draft coming to Green Bay. It's going to be an absolutely incredible scene. And I know people will be checking out the Hall of Fame without question. Um, one last thing before I let you go. As far as the course itself, it is online. I know people. You mentioned come from all over the country, the world, etc. How long is it? How many weeks is it? What is the kind of framework for the course?
Sure. So the course will be starting after Labor Day in September. I'd have to look at the exact date, but it goes 8 weeks again. So September through October, we'll meet once a week, midweek, for a couple hours online. So you can, like I said, be anywhere in the country. You can register for it by you go to UW Green Bay's continuing education website, and then there's a link on it for this specific Packers course.
Amazing. We'll have the link on the description of this video here on Cheesehead TV. If anyone is interested, definitely get on that, because I know is it limited space? Is there only a certain number of people? How does that work?
We have like a goal, but since it's online, we
Right.
can go. For example, there were last year when we did the first course, there were like, I want to say almost 100 people
Nice.
in, which is more challenging for me as a instructor,
Right.
because as you know, like being on a platform like this, it's hard to see everyone or communicate. I'd rather like involve everyone and allow them to express their opinion or ask questions and such.
Absolutely.
But it does allow us to go wherever in the world, I
Well,
guess.
and that's the thing, man. There are Packers fans literally everywhere. As we found out when we were in London, we met so many Packers fans from literally all over the world who are just obsessed with the team. They're passionate about the team, and this is a great way for them to get involved and learn a lot more than they probably know right now. Brent, I really, really thank you for the time. And again, it's a real honor to speak with you, because I know you are an incredible steward for the Green Bay Packers organization. We here at Cheesehead TV really appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me, Aaron. I've enjoyed it.